So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Mantle, so to share my first impressions about the brand new API from AMD. Now, I was going to do a full review on it and show you guys some of the benchmarks. However, since there aren't really any optimized drivers for it out just yet, I won't be doing that right now. I won't be doing a full review on it. The only thing that I will be doing is give you guys my first impressions about the API and share with you guys some basic numbers, some basic benchmark numbers that I ran. And just keep in mind that it just released less than 3 weeks ago, I think. Yeah, something like that. And it still needs to be tweaked and fixed, especially in the driver department. And for all of you guys who didn't see my first video talking about Mantle API, sort of explaining what exactly it is, I suggest you go watch it by clicking right here. So let's start off by talking about some of the benefits of running Mantle at the moment. Well, the only benefit, really. There's only one, and that is more frames, which makes sense. After all, that is what Mantle is supposed to do, make your games run better on your current hardware. Now, I run a 7970. I have two, but for Battlefield 4, I usually just run one, because for some reason I cannot record without having that horrible frame stuttering. That's just AMD Crossfire for you. It just does not work for Battlefield 4 for me right now. It just doesn't, but we're not talking about that. So with that 7970, I have an Intel 2700K that overclocks like a mofo, by the way. Very good CPU. So with those specs, I play Battlefield 4 on the Mantle API, and I never get below 60 when I run the game on Ultra. I can even turn up the resolution scale up to 120, and I still get a solid 60 FPS no matter what, and it will never dip below that. I've tested it in the most demanding and stressful situations like Flood Zone and Siege of Shanghai and all that, cranked up the player count all the way up to 64, and I ran the game on ultra settings. I did, however, turn off ambient occlusion because that just gives me horrible mouse lag, which is something you want to avoid in a game like Battlefield 4, especially with the Pro netcode. But that was definitely not the case when I was running the game on DX11. Not at all. My frames would often dip into the 50s or 40s even, depending on which map I played. They usually dropped on, again, the most demanding maps like Siege of Shanghai or Flood Zone. So the performance is definitely there. Absolutely. I can definitely tell the game is using a lot more of the hardware as well when I'm running Mantle. When I'm running the game on DX11, Battlefield 4 was using around 30% of the CPU. It never really got above 35%. But when I'm running Mantle, my CPU usage went up to 60%, even up to 70%. So some of you might think that's a lot, and maybe even unhealthy for the CPU, but it isn't. It really isn't. In fact, it is something you want, especially in a game like Battlefield 4. The more CPU it uses, the more room it leaves for the GPU to effectively do its job, so you won't experience any sort of bottleneck. So I was definitely impressed by that, very impressed by the performance increase, but unfortunately Mantle isn't all positives, definitely not. It does have quite a bit of negatives, and for me, there are too many negatives. And one of those negatives is the fact that you experience quite a bit of frame drops from time to time. They're quite inconsistent for me, and sometimes the screen will just freeze for half a second, or even a whole second sometimes. And it's not something you really want in an FPS. So if you're in a gunfight and you experience one of those freezes or your frame drops, you will lose that gunfight 90% of the time. Now this of course is to blame to the fact that the drivers are in no way optimized yet for Battlefield 4, so I do expect AMD to fix that in the next couple of driver updates. Another issue was the fact that some people upon the install were getting a lot of blue screens, and even after installing the driver, blue screens would still often happen, including to me. So if you're experiencing the same thing, just go into your BIOS and disable your onboard GPU. That should do the trick. Now the biggest issue for me is the fact that I can't record with DxStory or Fraps. It just doesn't detect the software, it doesn't detect the game. Now for me as a YouTuber, this is a major issue, and that is why I'm currently not using it. I don't believe this is something AMD can patch in. I think we're going to have to wait for an update from the guys behind DxStory or Fraps or any other sort of capturing software. And seeing how small and quite unpopular Mantle is at the moment, I don't think we might see it anytime soon, although I did find someone on a forum who was able to contact some people from Fraps concerning this issue, and they replied saying that they are looking into it. Mantle is a very promising API, but it needs more time from both the developers and AMD. And for me as a YouTuber, it would make more sense to switch over to the green team, especially now that they have Shadowplay, which I am planning to do, by the way. So for now, it doesn't really make any sense to get Mantle, at least not until we've seen a decent driver from AMD. And once that driver does drop, I will be sure to get you guys some solid benchmarks. That's pretty much all I wanted to say about Mantle for now. It is a great little piece of technology with a lot of potential. Now, the only thing it needs right now is more time to further develop. Thank you guys for watching. Of course, if you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like. Hugs and kisses to all your beautiful faces. I am Dolce, and I'll see you in the next video.